A new sensation of ice. LA Ice Purple Boost.
Selamat malam teman-teman. Hello everyone and welcome once again to EMPC Producer Talks. Gak kerasa banget ini udah episode terakhir atau sesi terakhir yang kita punya untuk kalian semua. Tapi ini gak kalah seru dengan yang kemarin-kemarin Producer Talk kita juga ya di season 4 ini. Jangan lupa sebelum kita mulai, kita mau calling all producers out there for electronic music. Jangan lupa untuk langsung submit your tracks di www.iexperience.id/EMPC. Jadi without further ado, kita mau langsung panggil our guests for tonight. We have Jonas, Blue, and Sergio from Astral Works. Hi, what's up, guys?
Hey, what's up? Thank you for having us.
Hello. So, where are you guys now? What are you guys up to at the moment? Maybe starting from Sergio.
I am currently in Los Angeles right now, just enjoying this heat wave. But yeah.
Summer vibes, maybe?
Yeah, summer vibes as best as possible.
That's great. And what about you, Jonas? What's going on?
I'm currently back home in London for a few days.
Okay.
And then yeah, I start back again in 2 days. So yeah, it's just crazy. Summer's not ending for me. It's starting somewhere else in the world. So yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I think we're all kind of like coming back, to like having like a bit of a revenge parties and stuff like that,
Yeah,
since
definitely.
we're all coming back now from the pandemic, I guess.
Exactly,
Let's get right into it. So first and foremost, could you guys give us a bit of a background story, like maybe how you guys started in music or in electronic music, or maybe even you guys started out playing in a band or something like that, maybe starting from Jonas?
So I actually started out around the age of 8 years old. I started out as a musician. So my kind of earliest entry points into music were that I was playing flute, and I was playing that for quite a few years. And around the age of 11, I got heavily into dance music, especially where I'm from in the UK, in London. Dance music was very, very prominent at that time. And I just got hooked. It was, part of the sound when I was at school. And yeah, I just instantly got hooked to dance music. And it was mainly because of there was a program on TV that was it was like a late night program, and it was called Club Reps, and it showed all the clubs in Ibiza and around the rest of Europe. And I would watch this show religiously. It was on every week, and you would see DJs such as Cole Cox, Roger Sanchez, Eric Murillo, all these kind of classic Ibizan DJs. And I was just, as a young kid, it was around the age of 11 that I was watching this program. I'd already, been a musician for a few years, and I was watching this program, and I was just like, what is that guy doing? Who's at the front of the crowd? Who's got his hands in the air, playing these records, and everyone's reacting like I want to do that. It was kind of that light bulb moment for me, and and yeah, I kind of pretty much got hooked from there. Those are kind of the earliest memories that I have, and as well as like my mum and dad playing a lot of music around the house. But that was kind of my entry point into dance music and where it all started for me.
Wow, that's amazing. And what about you, Sergio?
So for me, it was a bit different. I actually grew up in Puerto Rico, which obviously wouldn't be known for electronic music. But I grew up to, my dad was a big music head, and he was always playing records. I think like early on he was putting me on to things like Led Zeppelin, but when it came more to the electronic side, he was listening to The Prodigy and Moby and Chemical Brothers, and just things that were deeply rooted in electronic. Some of the most legendary acts out there.
Yeah.
I can't tell you that I necessarily understood early on what the power and the story behind it, but
Yeah.
it was just kind of like the beginning. But in terms of how I started getting more involved on this in kind of like a work sense, I went to college up in upstate New York, and my roommate at the time was an electronic producer, and
Okay.
he was just always in his room, and he was playing around with his MIDI keyboard and just making music. And I kind of like just passively was just listening, and I eventually started having my opinions, and I started going back and forth with him on stuff. And he ended up having a pretty good career. He's Drew from Chainsmokers, so we just kind of became very good friends and started to talk a lot about music. And eventually, as his career grew, I decided that I was pretty good at it. I had a very good ear for music, and I guess I was good at identifying good artists. And that's kind of how it started. And then from there, I eventually landed my first job at Atlantic Records, working in the marketing department. And I worked with a lot of artists like Ed Sheeran and Coldplay and Bruno Mars early on. Eventually went to be a talent agent at William Morris Endeavor as an agent. So doing a lot of artists like Florence and the Machine, James Blake, LCD Sound System, etc. And then about 4 years ago, I got brought on to work at Capitol and Astroworks as an A&R. So now I oversee about half the roster at Astroworks, and it's amazing. And Jonas is one of our amazing artists.
Yeah. Okay. So pretty major musical backgrounds from each of you. Yeah. I just want to quickly remind our viewers. Jangan lupa teman-teman, kita punya Q&A session. So if you would like to just drop your questions right now, dan jangan lupa akan ada prize-nya yaitu e-money for our Q&A session later on. Okay, so moving on. This is a question for you, Jonas. How did you come up with the name Jonas Blue?
Yeah, so it's an interesting one. So if people didn't know, my real name is actually Guy Robin. Jonas Blue is my stage name. And it's an interesting one actually, because I made my debut single Fast Car, which was a cover of the legendary Tracy Chapman song. I made that in 2015. And around that time, I mean, previous to that, I'd made so many records. I was signed to a big independent dance label called Defective Records. I'd done that for a few years, and then I'd signed with there was a duo called Chase and Status, who people might know. They had their own record label, which was a sub label of Virgin Records in the UK, and I ended up being signed to them. And it was at that time that I was making very, very different music, but I'd made Fast Car on the side as a kind of completely different thing. It was inspired by the sound that time, which is, you had people like Swedish House Mafia, you had Avicii, Kygo, you had all these kind of Scandinavian acts that were just, changing dance music at that time.
I
It was
agree.
very it was very EDM, you could call it, at that time. And then it started to shift into this kind of almost more down tempo, more melodic, more songwriter based, and I just fell in love with that, because that's my background of where I come from. I love writing music and writing top lines and everything else. And Fast Car. So going back to where the name came from, I'd written, I'd completely finished the new version of Fast Car, and I was speaking to my manager at the time, and he was like, where do you see this song? And I said, well, I don't see it as what we're doing at the moment. I see it as a side project. And I think I need to come up with a name for this side project, because everyone in the UK and Europe knew my name, Guy Robin, as what kind of the music that I was doing at that time.
Yeah.
I was like, I need to be kind of faceless and you know, for this song to work, it's really weird. I strategically kind of planned how this would work, and I was looking at what was working at the time, and like I said, it was Swedish House Mafia, Avicii, Kygo, all them guys, and I noticed they were Scandinavian, and I thought, you know, maybe you need to be Scandinavian for this type of music to work. So I went onto Google and I looked up Scandinavian names, and one of the names that I saw was Jonas, and I was like, that could be a really, but the other half of it, and again, I was very by people like Calvin Harris as well. Calvin Harris, obviously Adam Wiles. I was reading up the and got his name, and it was a very similar. I'd seen the name Jonas, and I was like, because I'm English, I'm going to change it to Jonas. And then
you're not Scandinavian.
And then I need to kind of with something, and at the time I'd we had shot a music video for one of the songs that I was working on at that time, and the lead actress in this music video, her real name was Tuesday, like the day. And I was like, oh, actually, you know, maybe my name could be like Jonas Monday or Jonas Tuesday, something like that. But it didn't quite work. It didn't have that ring to it.
Yeah.
I remember I was doing my job at the time, which was I was DJing in this bar, and I remember being on the train platform at that time, and it was just kind of going around in my mind, you know, what the name could be. And I remember there was this one moment, what if we didn't use a day of the week, but we used a color?
Okay.
I was going through the colors.
Going through the colors, all right.
Jonas Green.
Jonas
that doesn't
Purple.
work. And Jonas Blue. And I was like, Jonas Blue. Wow. And I remember calling my manager, Aaron, at that time. I went, it's done. Because we were like a day out where we had to, the song had been signed, but we had no artist name.
Right.
So we were like a day out from it needing to be the whole thing. And that was why it was so urgent. I just remember that moment. I was like, Jonas Blue, done. That's it. I called my manager and I was like, I've done it. That's it. It's done. It's done. And from that day it stuck, and that was it.
But that's the thing, yeah. When you think about it too hard, it doesn't come to you. But when you're doing the randomest crap, it comes to you.
Yeah,
right?
It just kind of plays in your subconscious, and it just kind of goes around. Yeah.
It's fate, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. But since you mentioned Fast Car with the lovely vocalist Dakota, could you actually tell us a little bit more about this record? Like how it came together, how it connected, the lyrics, maybe the background story of it?
Sure. So yeah, Fast Car was obviously my debut single was Jonas Blue, and it was a really interesting time because the streaming revolution hadn't started yet. And that was the first big song to kind of start off the streaming revolution, and Spotify, because Spotify really backed me during that time. I remember going to Sweden and the offices there, and you know, them kind of being really impressed with how the record took off. So yeah, to give you a bit of background on the track, so it was my mum's favorite song when I was a baby. The original came out in 1988. I was born in 1989. And I just remember being a kid and, you know, hearing it on the radio in the UK, it was a massive hit in the UK. So it was always on the radio. I'd always hear it. And even back then, without being involved in music, just being a lover, young kid of music, there was something special about that original version, Tracy Chapman's version, that even now when you listen to it, it still sounds unlike anything else. It sounds fresh, it sounds current. It will never ever date, that song. And I think that's kind of what caught my ear originally, plus obviously the beautiful song and the melodies and everything else. But there was something special about it, I always remember. So yeah, years later, I was just kind of, I was at that point in my career where I was just trying different things. I was signed to, like I said, this record label called MTA Records, which was Chase and Status's label. And I was just, it was that weird time within dance music where there was definitely a shift going on. And I just wanted to try new things. And yeah, I just remembered that, you know, I loved Fast Car, and maybe this felt like the right time to do a new version, but I had no intention of it doing anything like what it did. It was just purely something that I was making for my DJ sets. And that's crazy in itself, because everything prior to that, I tried so hard to make a hit. And then the one
See?
song I actually didn't weirdly kind of cared too much about. It was just
Yeah.
something I just wanted to do, and I just wanted to play it for my DJ sets. That was the record that ended up changing my life. So yeah, it kind of started from there, that it felt like the right time to do this new version.
Mm.
And honestly, I made it within about 2 hours. The instrumental.
Really?
Yeah, it was so quick. It was great
From the
because
samples.
yeah, it was just like
Okay.
this moment where it was like years and years of wanting to do it, and then it just kind of came out of the sky into my head, through my fingers, and then into the
Damn.
computer, and it was just a very, very quick process. And yeah,
Yeah.
I had the instrumental, and I just remember sending it to my manager and being like, this is pretty cool. This sounds great.
Okay.
And maybe we can do something with this. And he was
Yeah.
like, yeah, but we need to get the singer on it. And
Mm.
I tried a few friends to sing on it, and the problem with Fast Car is that it's in a very, very low range for a female vocalist to sing.
Mhm.
So the people that I knew at that time, I had to keep changing the key of my version. I had to keep
Right.
taking it up so that they could sing it. And weirdly, with that song, when you change the key of it, it takes all the emotion and all the soul out of it.
Really?
Really weird. So I knew that I had to find the right vocalist that could sing it in the original key.
I
Um,
see.
and I just happened to be at one of these kind of live music events in London. It was just in a pub, and I remember this girl Dakota came on stage and started singing all these kind of bluesy, jazzy records. She was playing guitar, and I was just like, wow, I can hear her. I can hear her range, and I can hear that she could sing Fast Car. And I just went up to her at the end of the show. I didn't even know her, and I just said, I've just done this version of Fast Car. Would you be up for singing it? And she came to the
Okay.
studio the next day, and we recorded it. And it was probably about 2 days of work.
To
With
find the right key or
no, to just get it finished.
oh,
Because
all
I
right.
knew I knew that she could sing it, because where I'm musically trained, I can hear
Okay.
that she could sing it in the original key. So there was no question about that.
Mm.
So I knew that I'd finished the instrumental, and I just found the vocalist for it as well. And I
Yeah.
just went up to her at the end, and I was like, if you could come in tomorrow and record this version of Fast Car, we could try it out and see how it sounds. And as soon as she sang the first verse, it was just like, it's done. This is great.
So like the
And
mastering process took around like 2 days. Is that what you mean?
well, no, not really. I mean, like, in terms of creating the track, it took about a day.
Right.
And building the track, that took about a couple of hours to a day, and then another day to get her in to just record it, because remember, we didn't have to write anything. The song is a cover.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything's there already, so it was just a case of capturing that right vocal and recording it correctly, and making sure that it worked at that tempo as well. And
Right.
it was about 2 days of work to get the whole song finished and mixed.
Right. Okay. So
which is
talking about
it's
like
insane.
yeah, it is insane.
Just
Like 2 days.
quickly, just have a like a comment on that, which I just think it's pretty impressive. In music, you really never know what you come up with, and you never know where it comes out of, and it could take, it could be some chords that you lay down, or it can be a melody, or it can be whatever it is,
Yeah.
and it might be like the smallest thing, but once it clicks, it just clicks, and you kind of know it, but at the same time, you don't know. I'm sure, Guy, you had no idea how big that record was going to be, but
Yeah,
deep inside, you listen to it and you're like, this
yeah,
is something.
and it's such remember that the guy that signed it, the president of Virgin, which was a guy named Ted Cockle, he was the one who signed the record, and as well as Jason Ellis as well, Positiva. But I remember speaking to Ted quite a few years later, and we were talking about Fast Car, and he said, there's a piece of magic in that version that you can't describe what it is, but it encapsulates that moment in time in 2015, when we were kind of going through this shift in music, in dance, as well as I had kind of made the record, which, people always ask me, why didn't you use the guitar? And I was like,
Mm.
I was trying to reimagine the record, not recreate it. And the mad thing is that for me, one of the main parts of that record is the synthesizer riff that I did, which was the da 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 da. It wasn't part of the original. And I think it's just those little kind of pieces of magic that made it. But also, you got to remember, this was at a time when I wasn't overthinking anything. It was such a beautiful time because I didn't have anyone in my ear saying, oh, you need to try and hit this amount of playlists this week or that month. And it was just make music that you love and no care in the world. And that really reflects in that record, and I think that's partly the reason why it did so well as well. But that's kind of the story of it in a nutshell.
But yeah, coming from your perspective, Sergio, like what do you think about like the creative process of like a track that could get it as much like streams as Fast Car did? Like, do you believe in the fate kind of thing?
I believe in gut. I think mostly. I mean, just like Jonas explained that riff in that song.
Yeah.
When I listened to it with my A&R ears, that added an extra layer of magic to a record, and I think like ultimately it broke the rules of like electronic structure, and it created something that just felt like an elevation of what you're reimagining a legendary record, and at the same time you gotta be loyal to the original version, but you have to take it one step further. And right now, especially this Jonas kind of like opened the floodgates to what like interpolations of electronic music, in electronic music where, and now there's so many people are doing it. But what was so different, it's like there was that sort of magic. And even when you start that record, you immediately know that there's just something there. And and then again, when also a guy spoke about the vocalist and just having someone that can sing something in the right key, it's like having the right vocalist. It's so important, and just someone that can actually cut a record and just give it its own twist, because ultimately that's also very, very important. But I do believe in faith. I've also worked on a lot of records, like another example is when I worked with Jack U, and we had the Justin Bieber Where I Do Now record. Even when we had heard the first verse of it, was just the melody in the verse, you immediately knew that it was a hit. It kind of like just hits you, and you compare it to everything that's out there, and it just break rules. It didn't necessarily follow the same structure as a regular pop record or as a regular electronic record, but it just felt special. And I just think like that's what's so awesome about electronic music. You're working with producers that have control of the wheel, and that can take things wherever they want, and that can manipulate sounds, can manipulate vocals, can manipulate instruments in any way that you want. So ultimately you are an architecture to all of this. And I just happen to think also, we're seeing it from the other side, but I'm sure, Jonas listened to the song 1,000 times and try to make it even better. And I'm sure there were so many other versions that probably had so many different things, but ultimately when you pull it back, you're like, there's just something here. And you kind of hear it. When you hear it's a record like that, it's pretty immediate when you know that it means something,
Right. Okay. So maybe we could move on right now, maybe talking about our current projects as what you are doing right now, Sergio, in A&R and Jonas as well.
So right now, we like Works, obviously we oversee a pretty large roster, when it comes to electronic music. I think right now we have about 32 artists, and some amazing projects that apart from Jonas's project that we're super excited about. It's Chris Lake and Weird Genius and Zoo and Fisher and Alesso. I think like overall we build this roster within our label to really show all sides of electronic music. I think we don't have one of the same within our roster. I think like that's what's important. When you listen to electronic music, there's so many subgenres that come out of it. And you have people that make house music, and then you have people that do the tech house or bass, etc. So for us, the projects that we like to focus on is, we like to go out there and find artists that stand out and that have a vision ultimately. So a lot of these projects, they're all special in their own ways, but they're all different, and I think that's what it's important. I think in order to break through, you need to have identity, and that's what we're focusing. But all our artists have amazing music coming on. We have SG Elias with amazing music coming, Dax Jones with amazing music coming, Jonas with amazing music coming. And
Yeah.
I think ending this year very strong and going into next year, it's gonna be a good one.
Yeah. What about you, Jonas? Since you Jerry just mentions that you have new music on the way and that you also released your single on Friday.
Yeah.
Last
So
Friday, I mean.
yeah, so it's a real interesting time. So I'm working on an album at the minute. I've been working on it
Ah.
since kind of during the whole kind of lockdown and COVID time. I had this idea that, well, it kind of stems back from a lot of my music. As I have featured artists, I didn't do a lot of collaborations with other DJs, and I felt during that time, during COVID, and I still feel that way now, that it's important to collab, especially in the times that we're in with dance music. It's so important to collaborate. And I'd very much been a lone ranger doing it myself, since the start of Jonas, but it's all been kind of me. Apart from, a few collabs that I've had, which have been, with Tiesto and Rita Ora and MK and Becky
Yeah.
Hill. Like we've done a few collaborations and they've done really well. So I thought, maybe I should. And I was very much inspired by Ed Sheeran's kind of collaborations, EP, LP album that he did. And I was just like, maybe it would work if I did this kind of collaboration album called Together, where I kind of just bring a bunch of different people together and we just collaborate. So I've kind of been doing that since the start of the first or second lockdown, and it's pretty much there now. Um, and I've just been working on that. I have a new single called Always Be There, with an amazing artist called Louisa Johnson, and that came out Friday. So very much a kind of UK European sound, but it works well around the world. It's very similar,
Yeah.
kind of taking it back to the sound of what I had with like By Your Side and things like that. So yeah, we have that one out now, and then yeah, I'm working on the last single of the year at the moment, and then we're going to be releasing the album in, I think, around February.
Right. Okay. So I think our viewers are keen to know. Maybe we could start from Sergio. Like, how do you plan singles and albums? Maybe what are the factors to consider?
Well, I think like this question would have probably had a different answer a few years ago.
Okay.
I think something that's just very important is to understand that there's so many different verticals to get your music heard. Not only do we live in such like a social time where now obviously you have access to TikTok and all these different social
Yeah.
platforms, but also, you see the world of film and TV and music being heard on Netflix or whether it's HBO or whatever. So it's more like you kind of, for us, it's we have a north star of where we know we want to go. Let's say that like Jonas said, we're planning for an album, but you always have to remain a bit fluid, and you have to be a bit things change, and I think you work towards putting music together, and you always know what the strongest records that you have are putting out. but you also have to trust the artist's gut. You know, there's going to be a time where they're going to come to you and they're going to tell you, we feel like this is the right record to put out.
Yeah.
I feel like this is going to connect with my fans. I feel like this is the right time to do something. And no one knows an artist better than themselves. You know,
Yeah.
we as a label and as an A&R, we're not here to tell you what you need to do or what sort of music you need to make. We're really just a vehicle to help make, give you the tools to be able to make the music better. But the artist knows themselves better than anything. So you always have to listen to artists first and see what there is. And the majority of the time they know, but they'll come to us and they'll say, "What do you guys think?"
Yeah.
And you have to be strategic, in a time when there's so much music out there. You have to find a way to really kind of break through and shake things up. So that's why you need to remain fluid. But I think, there's always a plan and plans always change. There's times that you want to release an album this year and the album doesn't come out till next year. So I think like the more important part is, take your time making music, don't
Yeah.
rush it. And I think like be very sure about the music that you're making and try things out, but just trust the gut. I think that's the most important part for us right
Yeah.
now. And it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think, Jonas? Anything you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I think we live in such a different time with music now. I think when I out, it was a very, like I said, it was at the start of the revolution, and records were still kind of put out in their kind of old way. And you'd leave a record. I mean, a song like Fast Car, that took like 6 months, over 6 months to kind of get to where it did. Like that doesn't really happen now. You might get the odd record that does that, but I remember at that time I could put out 2 records a year and that was it, done. Like, I didn't have
Mm.
to do any remixes, nothing. Those 2 records would just tail off. That was a very
Yeah.
different um uh well, but yeah, now very, very kind of everything moves really quickly.
Yeah.
And I've noticed now that we have um the one thing that we do is our marketing plans change. So we have 2 options where we're kind of set 2 different options up, and one can be like, more TikTok based. And then if the record's not reacting well so much on TikTok and it's reacting better on radio in the UK or in Europe or in Asia, then you start to focus, you put the money
On
there and
those,
focus
yeah.
it there. So we're always in this time of change at the moment where if something doesn't work, we're able to switch. But yeah, back then it wasn't like that. You'd kind of
Mm.
put a ton of money into this one plan, and it would, you'd hope it would work. But now we have about, yeah, 2 or 3 different plans that we kind of, 4 weeks into the records, you kind of have a look at where it's at and then change and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's a very different time, and an interesting time. It's definitely different. And I do feel like we're going through a shift in dance music as well at the
Yeah.
moment. So it's an interesting time for sure.
Yeah. There are definitely, genres popping up, or different samples of songs popping up that you would never have thought would come
Yeah.
up. But so, from like viral videos on TikTok and things like that. But have you guys found any new interesting music trends that you're excited or intrigued about you could share?
Who
I
who
think
who wants to go first? You go first.
I think that the interesting one is when I'm playing out, and certain records that I see, working around the world. And like, interestingly, the Sergio, is it LF sound system or LF system?
Yeah,
That
LF system.
LF
Yeah.
system, yeah. So it's mad. So that record, Afraid to Feel, great record, but it's, 10 years ago we were making that music, which was
Right.
just old disco samples sped up, and put a house beat behind it. But they created this new thing within that sound called the I think I can't remember who mentioned it the other day, but it's basically called like slow speed to then fast speed. This whole idea of taking the samples down in tempo and then taking it up, and that's the kind of new trend that I've really liked seeing, because I've noticed that's a really big thing on TikTok. You know, people taking these old R&B records and speeding them up double time, and you get these kind of chipmunk sounds, and I love that. You know, that kind of throws back to the old Kanye sound for me a bit, and I love those kind of things and the old hip hop sounds. So yeah, I'm seeing all these kind of old trends that are now new trends again, and I really like it. And especially in Europe, you've got the whole kind of rave culture which is coming back, the whole 90s rave culture. Again, that's, you know, what I grew up listening to, and it's amazing to see it back, but you know, in a new way. So yeah, these whole trends and new sounds that I've kind of just been seeing over the past year has been really cool.
Yeah. Okay, what's your take, Sergio?
I mean, I completely agree with how, there's so many sounds that are just kind of like resurfacing, and and ultimately a lot of them have been around, and there have been certain versions of this. But for me right now, I think what's the most interesting is it's just access to international music. I mean, when you look at the roots of a lot of territories, there's always a sound that comes from all these territories, whether we're talking about Lagos, Nigeria, or like, the Amapiano movement in Africa, or you talk about the funk movement in Brazil. Because of access to, technology and social, and how music and videos are traveling, you're seeing all these artists that are really experimenting with the blend of electronic music with these local sounds. And I think it's creating, this kind of like new wave that just feels fresh. It just feels different, and I think like that's always something that's super interesting, because now you see artists like Drake and Beyonce in their last albums that started to use, what it's like, this new house sound. But this has been around, and there's been people that have been doing this for years and years and years. And there's people that have perfected it, but they've opened the floodgates. And I just think, I'm super excited about the stuff that's coming out. And Cindy from my team, who I always talk to her about the stuff happening in Southeast Asia, for me, it's absolutely amazing, and it's brilliant. And the artists that are starting to come out of there, like Zach the Mutlo, and there's just so many exciting projects that you just see them crossing over into our territories that maybe 5 or 6 years ago that would have not happened. I just think it's an exciting time. And I just think like people experimenting with other cultures and other sounds, I think that's really the future. I mean, we're right now we're living in international music time, where you don't necessarily need to understand the words of a record in order to be able to feel it or to be able to enjoy it. And that's the beauty of music, It's I think like that's why I'm just so excited about this kind of international movement that's happening.
Yeah. But have you guys like recently listened or found anything interesting? Maybe from artists that have recently became viral or popped up on your FYP on TikTok?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of
Jonas, there's this guy from the UK that I'm just obsessed with right now, called Dre 6, and he's just he's not even an electronic artist or anything, but just a vocalist out of the UK.
oh
That
wow.
I just think he's amazing. Has like an Ed Sheeran vocal, but at the same time, the writing is not Ed Sheeran at all. But it's super cool. But I mean, I just think, yeah. I mean, for me, I've been really focused in terms of what I'm doing, Southeast Asia and Africa are just two territories that I'm just consistently tracking for artists, vocalists, production, and there's new and cool stuff. If I even showed you my Spotify playlist of everything that I throw in, it makes no sense. Like you just it takes you to an absolute roller coaster of sound and artists. But I mean, I think it's an exciting time to find new artists. It really is.
Yeah. Ernest, what do you think? Have you thought of anything come to
Yeah,
mind?
I mean, I'm just kind of, I listen to a lot of different playlists, and I just kind of,
Right.
more so than kind of discovering artists, I'm just listening for kind of new sounds, more so. So for me, it's just more of a case of kind of digging through a lot of these playlists and just listening. But yeah, I'm trying to think of some of the people. I mean, Fred again is someone that's obviously
Oh yeah.
he's quite a big artist now, but I remember listening to him a few years back and just being really impressed by his sound and him, Fortet, all them guys, been very much inspired by that.
Yeah.
Trying to think of some other people. I can't think of anyone at the minute that I've been like, wow, this is someone that I've discovered and it's
Okay.
incredible. But I more so
Mm,
just listening out for new sounds on playlists and things that inspire me has been
yeah.
more the
Yeah.
case.
But I think like the Fred again example is that's just a beautiful example in electronic music. You know, he's been a producer, and I think that he kind of came in into the scene, and he broke the rules of structuring electronic music, and he started
Yeah,
to make all these very interesting sounds, and the
yeah,
whole idea of the project, it's about, happiness and unionship and dancing. Like it's dance music, and it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be exciting. It's supposed to be like like make you feel some sort of way. And I think like seeing artists like that break into the scene where that's their ultimate goal, it's exciting. It really shakes things up, and I think it helps the whole genre move forward. You know.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I think we can move on to our Q&A session now, guys. We
Sure.
have 3 questions from our viewers. And I would just like to say a big thanks to you guys for dropping your questions. And here we go. So our first question is from Minata Beats. This person asked, how does producing and writing for other artists compare to your own music? And how do you decide what you'll be keeping to release for yourself? Interesting.
Yeah, I could probably answer this one.
Yes, go
Yeah,
ahead.
Um,
right. Not me. That's not me.
yeah, I came from that. So,
Yeah.
I started out as a traditional producer and songwriter. I was writing music for other people. I'd been doing that for quite a few years. I worked on people like Craig David, Ava Max, Rita Ora,
Right.
as in up to date. But yeah, I think it's very difficult. I think when I have those kind of artists come into a session, they know it's for me, and we're working on a song for me as Jonas Blue. But then I'll get a call from them, or maybe a producer that works on their project, saying we want to bring you in, and we to work with us on this track. So as a prime example, I got the call from Circuit, who is Ava Max's producer,
Right.
and asked if I would remix the song "My Head and My Heart," and I actually said I don't want to remix it. I actually think I can change your original and make it kind of more fitting for the sound that I hear. And that's how we ended up working on that record together. So that was a very kind of different scenario. Someone like uh say someone like Craig David's,
Yeah.
um an amazing, that was very much, we're going to write a song for your album, you come in here and we write for your album. So I think it kind of there's all different ways. I have a very specific sound, so I know when, and I know when my singles have to be kind of due out. So
Mm,
I think knowing that's how I know whether a song's for me or not. But I write a lot of songs during the year, and half of those end up being sent out or pitched out to other artists as well, because I can't release as much that year, and they might have a certain type of sound to them and they need to be put out, and they might be better suited, again, like what we were saying earlier, projects change, your sound changes, and that song that you have written there might not work for you now and could be better suited for another artist. So there's so many different ways, but yeah, I mean, there is the classic way of going in the studio, writing a song for that person with that person, or it's, you're brought into something at a later stage, and so on and so on. So yeah, probably that way.
Sergio, anything you want to add on?
No, I mean, I was actually gonna bring up the Hardline record with Craig David. Like I think like that's I grew up listening to Craig David. I think like a lot of people did. He's a legend, and like it's like he's one of those artists that you don't even need to know the artist's name to know a record. You hear his song and you immediately know what record you're listening to live. And but like when you're talking about it, you're working with an artist for his project. You have to dip yourself into their world, and you kind of have to put up. You have to, in a way, distance yourself a bit from your side. You still have to be loyal to your sound, but it's like an experiment. You don't know what's going to come out of it, but there's two different games that can be played, and it's either your game or theirs. And but I think like again, that's why it's so exciting, the world that we live in with production, because someone like Jonas can go and do it all, because he understands he understands all the sounds and everything that's coming from all different genres. So it's just about how that comes together, and it is very exciting.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that, Minata Beats. That was an amazing question, actually. I wouldn't have thought of that. But okay, let's go to number 2. Alfie Rick says, with a Z, he says, hi guys, what do you think about commercial genres of 2022 in the future? Interesting. I think he means more to the viral genres right now in the commercial scene.
Joe, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so I mean, I think like right now, I guess like the real answer is what is commercial. I think like commercial is like the most accessible type of music that there is. It's what people call crossover pop music, which can be anything. It can be it can be electronic, it can be indie, it can be alternative. But it's the real answer. It's impossible to know. We don't know what people are going to be into in like 5-6 years from now. I think ultimately the goal and the approach for any artist should be to make timeless music in whatever shape or form that is. And I think when you look at the music, it's a very interesting time, because you look at some of the biggest records in pop music right now. At least you look in the US side. Doja Cat. A lot of these records are sampling older records from the 90s, the 80s, the 70s. They're interpolations. They're using melodies. They're using the commercial hits from now, and like some that have happened in the last years, will always have that root of history from the past. So, but they all change and they all evolve. So I think it's very hard to predict how music will continue to evolve. Definitely. Because it's such a fast moving, the sounds are just evolve so quickly. But I think it's ultimately the focus should be on what feels timeless, what feels like something that will be heard like 10, 15, 20 years from now, but not necessarily following any rules. I think in reality, a lot of the artists that end up breaking through and end up becoming timeless artists is because they built something that was different, but was still rooted in something else. So you have to play around with sounds, and you have to find your strength. And I think that's kind of, but I think the short answer is it's unpredictable. It's really unpredictable to see how things will change.
Yeah, even now people are starting to realize the nostalgia of things and going back to even like old tracks, listening to old tracks. So yeah, I agree. It's very unpredictable. Okay. So maybe bridging on to the next question from Mia with a double Y underscore BGR. Out of all of the various types of music genres, what type of music do you guys like or enjoy?
I mean, for me, I listen to a lot of jazz. That's kind of what I listen to in my spare time. So, you know, people like João Gilberto, Stan Getz, Astrid Gilberto, Luis Bonfire, like these are all artists that I listen to. And it's mainly because it helps me switch off from listening. You know, if I listen to electronic music, which I love listening to, I'm overanalyzing it all the time and I can't switch off. So yeah, I listen to a lot of jazz just mainly because of the musicality to it. And I also have this theory as well of listening to with a lot of kind of the into it in Spanish or Portuguese. I can't understand it, which is also good because then I'm not listening to the lyrics too much. So I completely switch off and listen to this music. So I listen to a lot of that. I listen to a lot of disco. You know, I collect vinyl. So I have a huge collection of disco records, and I love listening to a lot of that. And yeah, a lot of R&B as well, and pop music. You know, I love pop music. I love listening to the songwriting within pop music. So you know, I'll have Taylor Swift on, or you know, Nas, and or Shawn Mendes, and I love listening to that music.
Right. What about you, Sergio?
I mean, I feel the same way. I feel like I grew up listening to everything, and I think like that was good, and I'm very thankful for my parents that put me into so many different things early on. But and I think it is important to always give an opportunity. I mean, you know, I didn't know that guy was so into jazz, and that's amazing, and I think like that, and that really shapes your ear. For me, you know, I one of my favorite albums ever that my parents used to play for me was Led Zeppelin, the House of the Holy album, and that record is a record that you know, like from the bottom, it's just an absolutely amazing album, production wise, writing wise, and then I really started to lean deeply into the alternative scene and the rock scene, and you know, and I eventually found myself to bands like Sigur Rós, which is an Icelandic band. I have no idea what they say, no idea. But for me, it is such beautiful music to listen to, and you know, it's one of those artists that for me it would give me goosebumps just listening to it, and I had no idea what they were even talking about. But then again, I like just like that. I go into the pop and I'm listening to everything. I find so many interesting things that I'm just like, well. But I'm also from Puerto Rico, so Spanish music, that was what I grew up in. You know, reggaeton. Like you listen to like salsa, merengue. These are all very niche genres within that. You know, reggaeton now is one of the most commercial genres out there with Bad Bunny, J Balvin, etc. But when I grew up on it, no one knew what it was until Daddy Yankee put out Gasolina, and that was the first record to ever be done. But I grew up on that, and still to this day, I listen to it, and every time I listen to it, it brings me back home. So, but I think especially for people that are trying to become producers or be better producers, it's important to listen to everything. It's important to really understand sounds and understand how people use sounds in all different genres. It's helped me understanding music, and I bet you know it's helped producers like Guy be able to make the music that he's made because he's pulled from so many different places. So yeah, it's everything for me.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I think this could be our last question, guys, before we say our final goodbyes to our viewers and also our music producers. So this one is from official Tebedayang, and she or he asks, This is a question for Jonas. Okay, how do I write catchy lyrics? Did it happen because there was music? Because there was music first, or did you make the lyrics right away? Okay. How's that?
Okay, so yeah, how do you write catchy lyrics? I still ask myself to this day, how do you write catchy lyrics? Um, it's weird. So I used to write every single day. So from kind of the age of 15, 16, I was having sessions every day with, songwriter friends, and it was just it was a very, very long process, and to try and find fresh ideas when you're writing every day was really quite difficult. And I did that for many years, and then when the Jonas Blue project started, I actually said to myself, I'm not going to write as much, and
Mm,
and I still do that to this day. So the way I work now is I'll come up with whether I have something on my phone which says song titles, and then I have my voice memos for melodic ideas that I have. So for an example, I don't write much anymore because I'll put all these ideas down, and then when it comes to needing to get another record out, I'll go through all my ideas, and
mm-hmm.
anything that kind of sparks an interest or sparks an energy, I'll be like, right, let's do that today. And that's how we
Okay.
work rather than write every day. So as a prime example, Mama. I remember I was in LA at the time, and I was just in an Uber, I think, going to do some shopping or something like that, and I randomly was just thinking about what I could call my next single, and I hadn't even written it yet. And I remember I've still got the note on my phone which says Mama dot 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 could be a cool song title. I
Right.
remember I remember a few weeks later I went back to the UK, and my songwriting partners that I work with, Sam Romans and Ed Druitt, and we just got in the studio, start fresh like we always do. What do you want to write about today? So then I go on my notes and I'm like, got this really cool song title called Mama. Maybe we try something to that and see what we get. And then I remember I just, again, a really creative time, I just kind of came up with the xylophone marimba sound, and then we just got the da, 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 da. And it was just
Mm,
very, very simple. And you know the one thing for me is how do I write those simple lyrics? I think I just want to make sure that everyone around the world, when I play these records at, festivals and TV or on radio around the world, I don't want there to be any language barriers. I want everyone to be able to understand my songs and the lyrics. So I try to make sure that they're universal lyrics and just, very, very simple. And madly, they are the hardest songs to write because
yeah.
they're very simple, they're very hard. And for it to not sound cheesy, and
Mm,
and for it to sound credible with, universal lyrics behind it, is very difficult. So the answer to that question is I don't really know how to write simple lyrics. I try to make sure they're universally appealing and can work for everyone around the world, and I just try to keep the melodies very simple within the songwriting.
mm,
That's it, really. But there's no easy. It's not like I've got a handbook where I'm like, oh, this chorus from, B2 would work great, and it,
yeah.
it doesn't work
No
like that.
theory.
Yeah, there's no theories. It's just,
Yeah.
you just listen to your gut, and the fact that I'm able to play out every weekend all around the world and see lyrics that people attach to, and that's a really good inspiration as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
there's
all
no
I
easy way,
Definitely.
unfortunately. A lot of studying.
all, all I want to add to that is a catchy melody is a catchy melody, and
Yeah.
I think, like, it's when like Jonas has the melodic ideas in his notes, and I know a lot of producers that do that. They just sing the melody into their phone and they record voice notes and voice notes and voice notes,
Yeah.
and then they'll bring it into the studio, and like you said, it's you bring it and they're like, listen to this idea, and it goes like this, and it's literally just like a 10-second melody, and from
Yeah.
that it just becomes something.
Yeah, I remember watching the Charlie Puth one on Attention, and You know, I think he even called his album Voice Notes as well. And you hear that idea, you can hear it online, it's on YouTube, and that's very much a very similar process of how I make all these records. I mean, even the same with my song Polaroid that I had with Liam Payne and Lennon Stella. There's a clip on, if people want to dig through, they can have a look. But on Instagram, there's a video of when that moment we came up with the lyric Polaroid, and I'm just sitting there on the piano playing the melody. That wasn't pre-planned. That was, you're seeing the moment it was created. And then it's interesting when you see those moments and those records go on to do what they do. It's a very interesting thing. But yeah, you can see it with you can see it on my page, on my Instagram somewhere, and then you can see it with Charlie Puth. It's a very similar thing where you've got these ideas and you save it and then you come back to it later and like, it's a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, definitely really inspiring. But thank you so much. Those are all of our questions, guys.
Amazing, thank you.
Thank you so much to our viewers for asking. Pasti nanti our team will hit you up for the e-money. And I would like to say thank you so much to Sergio and also to Guy, aka Jonas. Thank you so much for joining us here. And since you guys are definitely Jonas is a judge, and also the winner of EMPC will get a chance to collaborate with Astral Works. Do you guys have any last words? Because there are only 5 more days to go to send your tracks, so maybe we would hear some inspiring words for our music producers, maybe starting from Sergio.
Let's get those remixes in. We're looking for the best producers. We have some very, very exciting things coming for all the participants that end up winning, and we're super excited. I think that it's going to be an amazing opportunity for a few people that actually submit some amazing remixes. So, yes.
All right. So yeah, I'm loving watching the sunrise.
From
your window. All right. What about you, Jonas?
I think, be original with the sound. I think, don't try to recreate what I've done already. Do something which is going to make all of us be like, wow, that's a different sound, and those chord progressions are different, and just think outside the box, and just try something different. Don't try to already, because I do that, so I'm doing that, so which is new and different.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me tonight, and thank you to all of our viewers. Nggak kerasa ini udah terakhir kalinya kita mengadakan sesi EMPC Producer Talk. So thank you so much, and don't forget to send in your tracks exactly like Sergio said. So good night, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me and us.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
All
Bye.
right.
A new sensation of ice. LA Ice Purple Boost.